I forgot about this. I think... Was it last week, or was it maybe Monday's stream? We watched a video about Parmesan ice cream from Tasting History. I was scrolling through my recommended, and I found another Tasting History video about cucumber ice cream. So we're gonna watch that now. Lock in, chat.
The Queen of the Ices. No, not her. This lady, Agnes Bertha Marshall, one of history's greatest culinary entrepreneurs and author of hundreds of recipes, including this one for cucumber ice cream. So thank you to HelloFresh for sponsoring this video as we make Victorian cucumber ice cream, this time on Tasting History. So yes, this recipe is for a rather interesting ice cream flavor, but by no means is it Agnes Marshall's craziest ice cream recipe. I figured it was crazy enough that you might actually try it.
What are the other ones?
Cucumber cream ice. Peel and remove the seeds from the cucumber, and to one large-sized cucumber add 4 ounces of sugar and a half pint of water. Cook till tender. Then pound and add to it a wine glass of ginger brandy and a little green coloring, and the juice of 2 lemons. Pass through a tammy and add this to 1 pint of sweetened cream or custard.
Plushie?
Freeze and finish as usual.
In the background?
So one ingredient here...
Oh. That's cute.
Here needs a little explanation, and that is the green coloring. Now, she actually
I know what a Caterpie is.
Says to use her version of green coloring, which she says is non-toxic. And she has to say that because throughout much of the 19th century, many of the food colorings were very toxic. See, vegetable food dyes had been around for centuries, but by the 19th century they started to lose popularity in favor of something that could give you really vibrant colors, like copper salts, mercury-laced vermilion, or even the famous Scheele's green. So the 1970s had avocado green, the 1990s was all about beige, but the 19th century, the color was Scheele's green. Developed by chemist Carl Scheele, it was used to dye clothes, paint, wallpaper, drapes, and even food. The only issue was it was extremely high in arsenic, and so often when women wore the clothes, they would get sick. And it's even thought that it may have led to the cancer that killed Napoleon Bonaparte.
Please ignore what I'm doing with my hand. I'm doing my carpal tunnel exercises.
As the walls of his house of exile on St. Helena were wallpapered Scheele green.
That's what the doctors told me to do, so I'm going to do it.
Being used to dye food. There was actually one time where it killed 3 dinner guests. So no matter what you use, make sure it's non-toxic. You want to stay nice and healthy. And another way to eat nice and healthy is by ordering from today's sponsor.
I'm sorry, Max. I'm sorry.
Fresh, you can finish up cucumber. Like cucumber ice cream. And for this recipe, what you'll need is 1 large cucumber. She's not specific as to which kind of cucumber to use. I used an English cucumber, but a garden cucumber will work just as well. A heaping half cup or 115 grams castor sugar, 1 1/4 cup or 295 milliliters of water, a little bit of that non-toxic food dye, and how much you use is really going to be up to you, but we'll get to that later. A bit less than 1/4 cup or 55 milliliters of ginger brandy. And you can use more or less, but Whitaker's Almanac says a wine glass is 2 imperial ounces, which is a little less than 1/4 cup. Also, as I've never actually had ginger brandy, I might as well give it a taste, right? Ooh, smells gingery. Surprise, surprise. That is gingery. Yeah, that's good though. 1/4 cup or 60 milliliters of lemon juice, 2 1/2 cups or 590 milliliters of cream, and another heaping half cup or 115 grams of castor sugar. So first peel the cucumber, then slice it in half lengthwise and scoop out the seeds. Then chop it up into small pieces. Then put that into a small saucepan with the water and the sugar, and heat it over medium heat for about 15 to 20 minutes.
Cucumber flavored ice cream.
Very, very tender. Then mash the cucumber until as smooth as you can get. Then add the ginger brandy and the green food coloring. So here is where it's completely up to you how much to use. Now, I'm making it pretty dark because you're going to be adding a bunch of cream, which is going to lighten it up, and I want it to be sort of looking like the cucumber, maybe not quite as dark, because how she used to do it was to mold the ice cream into the shape of whatever flavor it would be. So she would get a cucumber mold and make the ice cream actually look like a cucumber. Sadly, I do not have said mold, but one of these days it'll be on my Christmas list. Either way, you can make it nice and light green, or dark green, or mint green. It's really up to you. Then add in the lemon juice and stir everything together, then pour it through a sieve. So in the recipe she says to use a tammy, but she doesn't say whether it's a tammy cloth or a tammy sieve, and elsewhere she's very specific. So I don't know why she wasn't specific here, but I used a tammy sieve because I tried it with a cloth and it didn't work. So go ahead and use a sieve.
Torture device.
Then separately you're going to make your sweetened cream. Now in the recipe she says you can either use sweetened cream or custard, and she has several recipes for custard. One is very rich, one is ordinary, one is common, and one is cheap. They all include either eggs or vanilla or sometimes gelatin, and they could all work for this, but frankly, the sweetened cream is really all that you need for this ice cream. And she says to make that by mixing the imperial pint of cream with the rest of the sugar. Then mix that in with the rest of the ingredients and pour it into an ice cream maker. Now, I'm using a modern ice cream maker, and while mine is electric, the one Agnes Marshall used was rather similar, at least in how it froze the ice cream. The way that we're different is that I didn't invent my ice cream maker, but she did invent hers, along with a bunch of other stuff.
Okay.
Born in 1855, Agnes Bertha Marshall would have fit in very well with today's hustle culture. She always had new projects going and was always looking at new ways to monetize them. Unfortunately, we don't know much about her early life. In fact, it wasn't until after she died that her husband, Alfred Marshall, told newspapers that she had made a thorough study of cookery since she was a child, and that she practiced at Paris and Vienna under celebrated chefs. But what we do know is that she was quite accomplished by the time she moved to London in 1883, where she purchased a plot of land and started the Mortimer Street School of Cookery. And on opening day, nobody showed up, and she learned a lesson that day in marketing, a lesson that she learned very, very well. So she went out, and on opening day, newspapers, she said she was going to teach domestic cooks how to cook high-class cookery, French and English. And many of the ads were not aimed at the students, but rather their employers. Middle-class London families who wished to dine like high society and wished their cook to learn the art of French cookery, which had become all the rage in London. And within a year, she was teaching 5 to 6 days a week, 40 different students every day. Unfortunately, there was only one Agnes Marshall, so her business wasn't really scalable. So she had a bit of a think. Well, she had a passion for ice cream, but it was an expensive and laborious process to make. Ice was very costly, as it usually had to be shipped in from Norway, and the current machines available took 30 to 40 minutes to hand crank one pint of ice cream. So she invented one that used less ice and only took 3 minutes to make the same amount. She got a patent on it, and in 1885, she marketed it in the opening pages of her first cookbook, The Book of Ices, from which today's recipe comes. Well, the book did okay.
You know what I'm fascinated by? And do not take this the wrong way on either my Twitch or my YouTube. The fact that she is a woman and able to do this in like the 1800s going into 1900s is incredible. Also, I just realized I'm on the wrong side. Move me back over. There we go. That looks better. Anyway, back to what I was talking about. The fact that she is a woman who is able to do this, like get her own patents, get her own like really good business going and stuff like that in like the 1800s is incredible. Especially in England. So, good for her.
But she realized that it wasn't the book sales that were going to make her rich. It was selling that machine to make the recipes in that book. And if one product made her lots of money, then 2 products would make her lots and lots of money. So she decided to make 600 products. Within just a couple of years, she was teaching people how to make ice cream using her ice cream maker filled with ice kept in her icebox and crushed with her icebreaker and made even colder using Marshall's brand freezing salts. The ice cream could then set in her patented ice cave, and it wasn't just ice cream that she was into. She sold pots, pans, gas stoves, ranges,
Wow.
and almost every other cooking tool you could think of. And everything was embossed with her name on it. And then she got into making
That's
ingredients.
insane.
She sold baking powder, flavor extracts, rice cream, curry powder, gelatin, and of course, Marshall's pure harmless vegetable colors, which boasted that the name A.B. Marshall is cast in the glass of each bottle. She also offered over 1,000 ice and gelatin molds, all branded with her name. She even had a team who would design
Wow.
kitchens using only Marshall brand appliances and then travel throughout England to install those kitchens. In her free time, she launched a magazine called The Table. It had recipes, menus, food
That's
buying
incredible.
guides geared toward the housewife or the domestic servant, and articles where she could give her feelings on different things in society, like the low quality of butter in England at the time and the adulteration of cocoa in the country. And of course, every other page included ads for her products. Then, in a move of brilliant corporate synergy, she made a second cookbook. And this one often referred to recipes in the first cookbook, so you had to buy the first one if you wanted to buy the second one. And if you still had some questions, she recommended to the reader on page 2 that they attend her school for cookery where they could take some classes. She even started an employment agency for domestic cooks so that those cooks, when graduated from her school, could then go on and be placed in some of the best houses around London, all the better to
Super
spread the
cool.
gospel of A.B. Marshall. Well, after publishing yet a third cookbook, she decided to take the show on the road and started cooking for audiences in auditoriums all over England. The London Times said, "In a few clear words, Mrs. Marshall explained what she intended to do and how she proposed to proceed. And for 2 hours, she completely engrossed the earnest attention of some 600 people, instructing and entertaining them at the same time. At the end of the lecture, or performance, whichever it may be called, her labors elicited a unanimous outburst of applause. She was like Julia Child before Julia Child, though only in England, because she took the show on the road to the US, but the States just weren't really ready for her brand of culinary entertainment. In fact, the most flattering article focused mostly on her rather than the content of what she was actually doing. Mrs. Marshall is a brunette of fine form and bearing, under middle
Ew.
age, with a ruddy complexion that characterizes English women. She is a fluent talker and speaks with a marked English accent." Newspaper definitely sent their B team on that one, but it didn't really matter because Agnes used the trip as a way to gather American recipes for her next cookbook. Philadelphia and Chicago-style donuts, Saratoga potato chips, and the decidedly American corn on the cob. Though plain butter and salt just wasn't interesting enough for her, so hers is served cold with a mayonnaise sauce and pureed oysters. But that
Okay.
experimental form of recipe
Not
was
an
really
oysters or
standing in
mayo
line
guy,
with
but
other
to each
recipes
their own.
that she had written. Cucumber ice cream, for example. But even that was on the tamer side by the time she got to her fourth cookbook,
Oh.
Fancy
Please tell us what the other ice creams are.
Ices, published in 1894.
Please.
Here she features everything from a sweet asparagus cream to a fish curry gelatin and frozen foie gras souffle.
Fish ice cream?
What's impressive is that almost every recipe in the book includes at least 3 ingredients that are only available for purchase by A.B. Marshall. The woman was a business genius. The book also included the first known recipe for something like an ice cream cone. Now, the cone as we know it didn't show up until the 1904 World's Fair in St. Louis, and there's debate over who was the first person to actually make it. But a decade earlier, Marshall's recipe for cornets with cream were very similar to an orange flower flavored waffle cone, though she says that it should be served not held but on its side, but she does say that it would make a perfect holder for ice cream. She definitely saw into ice cream's future, but it was just a few years to get to the ice cream cone. It was a century to get to another idea that she had. See, in 1901, she wrote about something that had just been invented a few years before. Persons scientifically inclined may perhaps like to amuse and instruct their friends as well as feed them when they invite them to the house. By the aid of liquid oxygen, each guest at a dinner party may make his or her ice cream at the table by simply stirring with a spoon the ingredients of ice cream to which a few drops of liquid air has been added by the servant. At picnics, it would be invaluable. Now, she never got to put her idea into practice, but about a century later, the multi-Michelin star chef and the lover of food history, Heston Blumenthal, started making ice cream at one of his restaurants using liquid nitrogen, though probably not at picnics. Now, in 1904, at the height of her culinary empire, Agnes Marshall fell off of a horse and never fully recovered, and a year later, just before her 50th birthday, she died. Her books were sold to Ward Locke, publisher of the more famous yet less accomplished Mrs. Beeton. But sadly, they decided not to keep Mrs. Marshall's books in print. But her husband did keep her school going and kept the catalog of products for sale as Marshall's Limited, and they stayed on sale all the way through World War II. Lucky for us, while her businesses are long since forgotten, her recipes are not, like this one for cucumber ice cream. So once the ice cream
Honestly,
has frozen,
I feel like cucumber ice cream would be pretty
away.
tame.
Though in her book, she usually suggests to let it harden in her ice cave, either by itself or in one of her molds, which you would have to purchase. They were made of pewter. She had tons and tons of them. And like I said, they were often shaped like what the flavor was, but sometimes they could also be shaped as rabbits and flowers and...
Oh, wait, that's why there's the fish pan! Wait, where is it? Where was he talking about the molds? Because I saw it.
Domestic servant, and articles where she could give her feelings on different things in society, like the low quality of butter in England at the time, and it wasn't just ice cream that she was into. Think of, and everything baking powder, cast in the glass molds, all branded.
Yes.
She also offered over 1,000 ice.
There's the fish mold! Copper. Why is there a copper mold? Did she make copper flavored ice cream?
Suggests to let it off in someday. But even without a mold, here we are. Agnes B. Marshall's cucumber ice cream. I put it in the freezer for like an hour and it really hardened up. Otherwise, it's kind of more like soft serve, but shouldn't affect the taste. Let's give it a try.
I don't want to know why.
It's very refreshing.
I mean, cucumbers are just water. 8 points of we're not watching Vote for Sandwich Alley.
You can really taste the cucumber. Really comes through. I didn't think it would because it's just not that much cucumber. In fact, I worried that the ginger brandy would really overpower it, but
I'm not hating, bro.
Honestly, I don't taste it at all. I could probably forego it. I mean, you shouldn't. Yeah, add a little bit in there, but I think if you don't drink brandy, then it's not going to be a big loss. But really good. Very refreshing and really smooth. One more. It's just creamy. It is not like a sorbet at all, but it's still refreshing. But it is definitely a dessert. It's not a palate cleanser.
Fascinating.
It's a dessert. And I think like one scoop would be fine. I don't see me sitting there with a whole quart, which I've done, but not with this.
So have I.
It's a little more nuanced. Now, Ms. Marshall had a wonderful quote that I think is pretty apropos for this dessert. The aim of a properly constructed sweet
I
is
would
to
make
convey
this.
to the
Yo,
palate
you haven't just like run through a whole quart of ice cream by yourself? That's like a canon event.
the greatest possible amount of pleasure. And I think she's done just that. The flavor, the texture, the level of sweetness, it is sweet, but it's not overpoweringly sweet. I think she's done it. By Jove, she's done it. So go make a little ice cream or go buy some ice cream, whether it's cucumber or any other flavor, just because.
I would definitely make that. Beans. I know I saw the beans. I would definitely make that. I would probably make that over I still do want to make the Parmesan ice cream, but I would definitely make the cucumber one if we do a cooking stream.